Death be not proud.
Listen up, you ignorant pigs. Put down your crack pipes and your beer bongs. It's time for the Holy Diver Show. This show I will be talking about Henry Cavill and his ambitious project for 40K inside of Amazon's domain. That's the best way I can put that, because when you work for Amazon, you're basically a slave to Jeff Bezos. Don't believe me? Ask my friend Bubbles about what it's like to work at Amazon. He says it's not that bad, but none of us in the gaming group believe him. So, let's talk about Henry Cavill. I'm going to give you a little bio. Born May 1983 on one of the UK's smaller islands. I did not write down the name. So, his first appearance as Superman was Man of Steel 2013. I've never seen any of his films, so I'm just giving you that bio. I cut out on superhero films after, I think it was Batman 2016 with... Heath Ledger as the Joker. That's literally the last superhero movie I watched in theaters. So, as a UK guy, I believe Henry when he says he's liked GW since age 10. There's a lot of miniature games in England proper, especially Nottingham. All these wargaming companies come out of Nottingham for some reason. The only one that's like an exception to that rule would be Reaper Miniatures in Texas. So, I've noticed every time that he's mentioned liking gaming or nerd stuff, women laugh at him. So I don't think he's acting. Women on Netflix Geeked are bitches, number one. And they're not the sharpest tools in the shed. The after show Netflix Geek, this is why I canceled my subscription. The whole reason why I canceled my subscription. They just, in layman's terms, women are bitches and I don't respect them. I just want to have sex with them. Those are the words, the sagely words of a wise man, So when he's on that show, I just noticed that they thirst after him. And then they make fun of them for liking nerd shit. And then, and it's like, what are they good at? What are women really good at these days? Well, they're really good at spending men's money, eating cake, lying in the sun, not to mention wasting time and never exercising. When it comes to that, women are all geniuses.
I get dressed in the morning, I'm triggered. I take a shower, I'm triggered. I get in the car, I'm triggered.
My impression that I get as a veteran of the old guard is that Henry isn't faking. All right? So, I don't know what to say past that. He's not faking when he mentions liking 40K. All right? And this isn't an attention grab to go into a niche hobby because, let's face it, 40K is a niche hobby for a reason. From the Women on Geek to the Graham Norton show, he's been berated for loving nerd stuff. He signed on to The Witcher as a fan of the video games and then later a fan of the book series. The problem with any IP that comes out of a book, and if it becomes a TV show or a movie, you have to do story as written. You have to do story as written. Case in point, TMNT 1990, Sam Raimi, Spider-Man 2, The Crow 1993. All of those movies did story as written more or less, and they were really good because most people can't really adapt a script that well. That's why you do story as written. That's why you have to have somebody there who's not only read the book, who's writing the script, but they've read it multiple times. They have it transcribed so that they can listen and fill in the gaps where dialogue needs to be. All right? So, what I gather from the socials is Henry has butted heads one too many times with the showrunner Lauren Hisarich over the show integrity on The Witcher. This is Netflix. This is the company that tried to cancel Dave Chappelle.
Come on, Clayton. We gotta go.
Oh, thanks. There's a nigger around here. That dirty monkey was beating my hood. Five power.
All right. who is a black Muslim. They're trying to cancel a black Muslim because we live in an age where you can't like jokes. You can't even carry a sign like Dick Masterson say, "I like jokes. Jokes are funny," without being assaulted by some weirdo leftist, all right? So, the only thing that Netflix really does and puts at the forefront of their shows is the globo-homo collectivist agenda. They sit hard at that table and they push it in your face every single time. Don't believe me? Watch Castlevania. The moment we got to ugly, disgusting vampire chick lesbians, I tuned out. I finished the last season where they finally defeated Carmilla, and that was it. That's when I decided I'm done with Netflix, because they're gonna throw disgusting, ugly lesbian shit in your face every single time.
Dario, we're gonna take you to court, even though we could just go down the street to a different bakery and get the same cake.
And they're gonna make sure it's aberrantly there, right there in front of you. This is what, you could say that the first 3 seasons of Orange is the New Black were actually relatively funny. And then they took all that lesbian crap one step further than it needed to be. All right? So Hisrich makes the accusation that Henry is a misogynist, toxic male corrupted by gamer bro culture. And I'm like, how is that even a thing? All right? This is a running, and you have to understand, normal people are really stupid. This is a running thing. Whenever they want to cancel a guy, they make up labels to basically get you fired. They'll slap a label on you, and once they slap that label on you, in comes the endless investigations. Henry is also accused of basically giving women the brush off. Last time I checked, you should be allowed to brush off any woman you want, all right? He has a reluctancy to date because of #MeToo. Women in the West have clearly basically wanted a system where all they've done is ruin the sexes for one another. They're fat, they've got tattoos and piercings, they've got kids given to them by two to three different men, and they're like, oh, you don't want to marry a big fat 300-pound former sex worker? You're an incel. Who hurt you? So that's where women in the West have gone.
Get dressed in the morning, I'm triggered.
And they want to be able to point their finger after the fact and say, j'accuse, he raped me. And you're like, bitch, show me the police report. Doesn't matter. They just want to, we live in a time where it's basically Witchfinder General, which is a movie I'm going to have to bring on the channel, just because it speaks so well for today. Once you're accused, nobody will ever help you, nobody will stand up for you, and your friends will just sit there and kind of disown you while you get burned at the stake. And if you ever watch Witchfinder General, that's what all this Me Too bullshit is. It's just a woman runs out of sexual marketplace value, she hits the wall, so she's got to get some money fast, so she's got to accuse somebody of rape or sexual harassment, like Weinstein. Asia Argento slept with Weinstein. She introduced Weinstein to her parents. They were dating. But, I have regret about that, so I need to be able to accuse you of rape later when it suits me. And that's where we live. So I don't blame Henry one bit for not wanting to date any of these harpy bitches. And so, because of this, Netflix has conducted endless investigations as an HR, aka Karen, using her hex magic to bring down a good man. And remember, you're not allowed to protect yourself with the Mike Pence principle, which means you need to have your mother in the room. If I was Henry Cavill, Henry, I'm giving you a message. Whenever you go out on a date with a woman, bring your mother along as a chaperone. Bring your mother along as a chaperone, and you drop her back off in Section 8 where you found her when you're done with her, when you're done with that date, all right? And if you really want to have a traditional marriage, Henry, become a passport bro. Move to Vietnam, marry some woman on a rice paddy, and never leave that rice paddy. You have enough money to do that, and that's what I don't get about rich men, is when they've got the money to literally go anywhere, live anywhere. They get trapped, and they always use women to bring any man they want down. If the government doesn't have dirt on you, chances are they're going to bring a woman into your life, and she's going to get that dirt on you. And that's how they're going to bring you down. So Henry, bro to bro here, I just got to tell you, if you're gonna get with a woman, go to Vietnam, become a passport bro, and never leave the rice paddy. Never leave the rice paddy, because that you want to go someplace where women don't have a welfare state to take care of them, and they also don't have divorce courts, which I heard in Airstrip 1, the UK. They are the worst for having divorce courts. Oh, bohum, I have to pay her alimony. We were only married 5 years. Yeah, but she's a big fat tub of lard butter golem now with no skills, so you have to pay for her. Oh, bohum and bollocks. That's where we've gone. So Henry, become a passport bro. You want to get a woman? Become a passport bro. Make some girl in the third world the envy of every woman in the West. That's what you do. That's how you combat that shit. And then they'll pass laws saying if you're rich, you can't leave from the UK.
We call it a butt fucking.
Look, but
If I were you, Henry, I would actually pick up and just move to Wyoming. Pick up and move to Wyoming, where you can actually have a little bit of freedom. So, I want to go on to this next part where, feminists, they're really good at pairing off random nouns with verbs and adjectives to label and control the language. So, you're a red-pilled gamer, bro, Henry. Pilled is a verb as you metabolize a drug to produce a toxic metabolite. So you're a toxic male, holy diver. You're a white racist. None of these labels mean anything. First and foremost, I think jokes are funny. And if, Dave Chappelle doing the black-white supremacist thing is getting him canceled later on in life, that's just bullshit, So to give you an example of how stupid these labels are, I'll pair off some random nouns with random verbs and adjectives, just so you know where we've gone intelligence-wise and how far the IQs in the Western world have plummeted. All right? To control language, you say you ass taxi, stump humper, cock lamp, cock mitten, bum hugger, or my personal favorite, I'm going to say cock lamp is my personal favorite. This is why boomers created the fake field of psychology, so that we can label men with random disorders in order to control them. That's where we are. We have to control the men because they're part of the tax farm. All right, and the only thing we want from men is men's money in civilization. As long as men are working and paying taxes and supporting women outside of the marriage with that tax money, so that women have all the freedom but none of the responsibility that comes with that freedom. This is why we create these labels like ODD. This male has ODD, oppositional defiant disorder. My personal favorite, neurodivergent ADHD, or you're an incel. Who hurt you? Last time I checked, there's no way physically that Henry Cavill can be an incel. Incel is short for involuntary celibate or something like that. And, somebody who would be involuntary celibate would be a guy in a wheelchair. There you go. There's your incel. A poor guy who maybe got in a car wreck or his legs were crippled at birth or something like that. They never fully developed. He can walk, but he pretty much needs a wheelchair. He's got like 6 braces on his legs. That would be your incel right there. Or a guy who's 5'2". A guy who's 5'2", not living in Asia, that would be your incel. But if you go to Asia, let's say you go to the country of Japan, the average height is like 5'7". Women want men who are 5'9". And it's like when I give dating advice to guys who are short, like I got a friend named Dave who's short, and if his dad didn't have a little bit of money, and if he didn't, wasn't like a professional ballet dancer, he would never get laid. And he is a professional ballet West company dancer. If he didn't have any of that, he would never be able to punch above his weight because he's a ginger and he's 5'6". So HR accuses Henry of being a red-pilled gamer so that they can fire him. Most women in general are giant bleeping children who should never have directional control over any production. They should never even have production manager jobs. And it's production managers that are killing the American industry. They're killing the American film industry. These production managers are not directors, and they're taking the power away from the directors who know, and a lot of these people, some of them are very capable, but they're getting pressured by these bullies who are basically the bosses that don't even need to frickin' be there. And that's why they're spending billions of dollars on movies these days, because they have to invent positions to give to women who for the most part aren't qualified to be there. Like, you go to any comic book convention nowadays, you know, and you got women on the panels, women running the shows, and it's just a giant garbage fire. That's it. It's a dumpster fire. I don't want to go to Comic-Con. I would like to go and meet Fernando Ruiz if I had the chance, or let's see, Kevin Eastman. That would be a nice thing to do, is go meet Kevin Eastman at Comic-Con, creator of the Ninja Turtles. He'll be signing merchandise all day. You know, that's what it used to be about, connecting with the creators of the books and the artists. And it's not that, it's just celebrity worship cult culture now at Comic-Con. And you know, and so today I'm just going to say that women, not all of them, but most of them are better suited to fetching coffee, taking lunch orders, and or the makeup department is where they need to be, or wardrobe. But they can't even do that anymore. Gosh, I've seen some of the hags on my local news channel. One woman was wearing a dress and she had like a random pocket over her left breast, and then there was a random pocket over her right hip. Like, what kind of dress is that? It was a piece of crap. We're even slowly losing our ability to dress women up, mostly because of how fat they've gotten over the years. And men, you guys are no exception to that rule, because recently there's a ride over at Universal called Super Mario Kart, and you have to have a 48. You can't have a bigger than a 40-inch waist to ride that. We've gotten so fat we don't fit on roller coasters. And if you live in the UK, you're like, oh, Bo, I'm in bollocks. The government should really do something about this discriminatory ride. That's where we live in this day and age. The IQs just keep going down. The more and more people who become butter golems, the dumber they get, and the more triggered they get. So, you know, Warhammer can never be mainstream. Why? Because of demons, and more demons. A bigger, more sustainable hobby is exactly what will destroy the hobby. You bring the world into a niche hobby like 40K, it will destroy the hobby permanently, because most dipshit humanoids don't understand games past Mousetrap, Monopoly, and what's the other one? The Game of Life. They fail at life all the time. They don't understand games past that. They barely understand Uno. And you want to bring them into 40K. Yeah, that's real freaking smart right there. All right? Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, DC are all stupefied just to include this subhumanoid class of dipshit normies, all right? All of the money comes from Karen and her white freaking kid, from White Karen and her kids, or it could be Shaniqua and her freaking kids, because let's face it, everybody just can't stop bleeping that one girl who spits out babies like a freaking gumball machine. Because of White Karen and her kids and the market share that they represent, everything must be rated PG-13 now. You're not allowed to go to R. One of the last great superhero movies was Punisher with Tom Jane and John Travolta, and it was rated R, and it was brilliant. It was good. I'd actually pay to see that if it were on a matinee on a Sunday. I'd actually pay to see it. It would actually be a good treat to go to the movies again and see a decent film, you know. You look at films like Godzilla vs. Kong or Jurassic World, they're all dumpster fire movies. I mean, let me tell you how stupid Jurassic World was. You had to wait 54 minutes in that film. 54 minutes just before the first guy got chomped up by a T-Rex. And you weren't even invested in it. There was some extra that randomly got scooped up and eaten, and it wasn't even scary. And then you said, I'm going to put my hand out there. Hold on, Blue, Mr. Velociraptor. I've got my hand out here. Your behavior is aggressive for being a Velociraptor. And Velociraptors don't even exist. They were created for Jurassic Park. You know, the raptors were actually are actually quite small. It was the only ones that were actually kind of big were the ones that they found in Utah, and they were said to have feathers and look nothing like the movie monster that we have in Jurassic Park. So, you know, you go down to things like Kenobi. Kenobi almost approached something on par with pre-2012 comic book movies before the whole woke garbage content dump. Kenobi gave you 9 minutes of fan service, all this to lead up to one line in The New Hope where Obi-Wan says to Luke, he's more machine now than man, twisted and evil. And the duel in Kenobi actually happened kind of the way I pictured it. You had both of them on a dead planet, one-on-one, very Sanjuro, very heady kitty, that duel in heady kitty, very Ronin Japanese samurai duel beatdown right there, and that's how I pictured it back before in the 90s, those two meeting on a dead planet by themselves for one last fight. All of Amazon Prime's offerings are total consumer trash because you have to sell this trash to dipshit normies. And, you know, the problem with normies is they do not have an attention span past movies like Hotel Transylvania. They don't. You might have an attention span with a show like Jack Reacher for some guys, but like the kind of guys who like Jack Reacher are like guys like my brother-in-law. When I asked him, he's like, "Oh, I lift weights all the time, HD," and I'm like, "Can you bench press your body weight?" And he's like, "No, sir, not in many years." That's one of my brother-in-laws. Both of my brother-in-laws can't bench press their body weight. That's pretty pathetic, and that's the kind of show that Jack Reacher appeals to. Those are the kind of men that watch Jack Reacher. I'm sorry, it has to be this way, but you know, I'm not saying this to hurt, but to educate. If you're a dude, you at least need to be able to throw down on your own body weight with the bench press, all right? And too many guys with tits out there. You must package all consumer content is safe for children because of merchandising. That's another reason. Now I get it. I understand Spider-Man, Batman pajamas. Today all little boys know is Spider-Man, Batman, and they know John Cena. All right? That's very reminiscent of the 90s where it was TMNT, Batman the Animated Series, and Hulk Hogan. You know, except for me, it was Rowdy Roddy Piper. So, you know, but that's what little boys understand, so you have to sell that to it. But it's getting so bad now, it's like, we have to make Superman gay, we're going to make Harley Quinn and, Poison Ivy. We're going to make Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy lesbians now. They were never lesbians. Their friendship started back in the 90s in a children's TV show. And now you have to go and wreck it because being gay, being woke is more important than anybody's memories. Or we have to make them lesbians because that's what they would do. It's sexy, right? No, it's not. No, it's not. It's done. You've beaten us over the head with it. And now, the only way you can protest this at all is just to pay it the indifference it deserves and never buy it. I can't tell you how many Raging Golden Eagle articles he's read over the years where ever since 2017, comic book stores have been going out of business. And the only thing that's selling at 75% off are the offerings from Japan and the wargaming stuff and the nerd crap that they have in there. You know, like I went into one of my local hobby stores to buy supplies. It's not a game store. They sell RC cars and model kits, and they do have the GW line for paints, and they have a couple boxes, but nothing special. You know, so if I need a paint, I can go there. And they have 2 full shelves now of Pop Funkos. 2 full shelves of Pop Funkos. That's where it's going. You know, that's, again, you know, like I've never bought a Pop Funko. You go into GameStop, you know, there you go. You got Pop Funkos, and they don't even have a business anymore because you can buy this shit on eBay, save yourself some money. You can't even go into a locally owned place like the Game Peddler and buy a game without being ass rammed over the counter. You know, it's like, how do you start collecting video games? Well, you start on eBay and you do your own research. You do your own research because the people who are in the stores are there to turn a profit. And it's a dying business. It's a dying form of business. you know. So the only way a 40K series works is if you rate the show from the gate, NC-17 or X, because we are going to exploitation movie land, levels of violence and gore. Exploitation movie land goes beyond humanoid understanding, which really does cut out at Hotel Transylvania. 40K is not a consumable good. This means this means a movie with an X rating, like movies with X ratings that I wouldn't even touch for a $300 donation on PayPal. I mean, we're talking levels of violence on par with Kubrick, Coppola, Tobe Hooper, Ruggiero Deodato, John Naughton, not to mention Takeshi Miike levels of violence, with visuals brought to you by Shunya Tsukamoto. That's where we're going. In layman's terms, I'm talking movies like Cannibal Holocaust, Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, Tetsuo the Iron Man, The Blood Getting Off the Elevator in The Shining, Dracula Kills Lucy, Explosion of Blood. The chainsword in 40K alone equals Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But we're gonna ramp, but that's Texas Chainsaw Massacre to the 14th power. Maybe even times 10 to the 14th power levels of violence. The gangbang scene at the end of Cannibal Holocaust, the penis drill in Tetsuo the Iron Man, Ichi the Killer, which I don't even want to watch because I saw Takeshi Niike's film The Audition, 1999, and then picture all of this ending with no closure, alright? Like Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, where he dumps his girlfriend in a suitcase on the highway after he chopped her up. After he murdered her and chopped her up, and that was the end of the movie. There's no closure. There was no counter-offensive against Henry and his crime spree. Alright, and that's kind of why the movie got slapped with an X rating and was delayed a release. Because, yeah, it's an art film, but yeah, you're pushing a boundary. There are movies out there that push a boundary, so if you're going to be successful with 40K or anything in Games Workshop's universe, it's not for children. You have to push a boundary, alright? Is this making sense? Is this grim dark enough for you? Because that's where it needs to go. All that just so you humanoids... all this just to tell you in layman's terms where the show needs to go in terms of violence, alright? So the only way the grimdark of 40K can be captured correctly without pissing off fans, and believe me, I'm a fan, and you don't want to piss off the fans. And when I say you don't want to piss off the fans, you know, you got to bring enough fan service with 40K or any offering that you bring out. And this is why they always do this is a limited run kind of thing with 40K, is because you want people to buy it and then they can have all the remorse later after buying it. So if you don't want to piss off the fans, my suggestion, Henry, is that you need to do anthology films. You get 2 hours and you're going to do 5 to 7 short movies inside of that 2 hours, with each one telling a different story within the grimdark of 40K. The movie Halo Legends was actually pretty good. They did a good job. My favorite movie inside of Halo Legends is Prototype. It starts off with this young girl who should never have been in battle in the first place. Here you have an 18-year-old teenage girl dying in the arms of a veteran sergeant, and she asks him, "Do you have enough strength to be human?" And then she dies in his arms, and the guy goes crazy right there on the spot because he couldn't save any of the people in his platoon, let alone her. And it brings up all kinds of moral issues. Should women be allowed to fight in close combat? Absolutely not. A unit of soldiers only moves at the speed of its weakest members. And if you put women in close combat, they will definitely be the weakest members. I've heard story after story from Terrence Popp or any military-related content producers who talk about what it's like in the Army, about how when women give up in the Marine Corps, they force men to pack their gear around. Sometimes they even have to shoulder their rifles. So you got a man carrying double now. So what is that, 60 pounds? Going up to 120 pounds of gear, and the least she can do is shoulder a rifle, but she can't even do that. You know, and that's probably what got them killed, but it brings up all kinds of questions like that. But at the end of the movie, he saves his next platoon by sacrificing himself because he vowed, right, he made a knightly honorific vow not to lose any more people under his command. So he told his remaining men to get out of there. He used the prototype suit to hold off the Covenant, and it was a good frickin' story. If you haven't seen Halo Legends, and if you're not really interested in Halo, and I'm not the biggest Halo guy anymore, I do suggest checking out the film Prototype. I think you can actually watch that particular one on YouTube, and I actually highly recommend that. HD gives that one 5 skulls. Check it out. Still brings tears to my eyes to this day. So, unfortunately, Henry, bro, you will not have creative control over at Amazon. Over any freaking project. They're just too freaking woke, alright? Rings of Power is a $1 billion limp dick, and nobody officially got fired. That's the big one right there. Patrick McKay still works over at Amazon. Because being woke is more important than $1 billion kick to the teeth, and they will die on this hill. They have chosen this collectivist globo homo agenda for every niche hobby that they're trying to destroy. They've destroyed comic books, they've destroyed video games, and now they're trying to destroy anime. They're bringing Japanese companies like Toho are actually bringing Western censors into their board meetings now. All right, that's not a good thing. Project One, all these companies, not to mention, Raging Golden Eagle again mentioned about how Western censors from Funimation want to sit on the board meetings of what they and tell Japanese companies what Americans would like to see. And so get used so you can say goodbye to the cute anime chick that's based off of the cute Japanese girl, you know the ones that are thin and have decent cup sizes. You can kiss all that goodbye. They're gonna uglify the anime girls the same way they uglified all of them for the most part in Castlevania Netflix adaptation. It's still good, but Sypha Belmonish was flat-chested and she was too frickin' OP. It just wasn't good after that. Like once they got to season 3, it just took a giant dump. All of the characters was just too frickin' OP, and none of it was good anymore. So I had to cancel my Netflix subscription, and not even Cobra Kai is enough to get me back. It doesn't matter what's on Netflix, they're never getting my money again, not even with an ad tier, So it's just not worth even watching, and they're gonna continue to beat, and now that they've started to beat down every niche male hobby, they're turning their attention to 40K. And they're not going to stop until the only refuge that gamers have is basically historic wargaming, because you can't rewrite history. But I wouldn't put them past it. I wouldn't put it past them to try. We're going to make the Battle of 300 movie, and we're going to make Leonidas gay, a big fat black gay lesbian. That's who's going to play Leonidas. They already did it with Troy. Netflix's Troy adaptation was a pile of garbage. For no reason, we're making Achilles black. Really. Achilles is a black man all of a sudden, which is bullshit, because I've read the Iliad, and the description they give of Achilles is blonde hair, blue eyes, being so well armored that he glittered like the sun. All right? Not to mention, he's kind of got that Chad swagger, which would suggest that he's Caucasian. All right? This is European mythology, and this is what they did to Rings of Power. We're going to make one of the dwarfs black. So we got Shanae running the dwarfs now. I've never watched it. I don't need to watch it. All I know is that you can't take Nordic mythology and Anglo-Saxon mythology and inject color. There's no reason to do that. Elves are white. They're basically the closest thing. Like, who would make a good elf? Allison Dooley from Indiana Jones, or Kathleen Kinmont from Halloween and Renegade. They would be good elf women because they're 5'9", they're tall, they're elegant, and they have a decent cup size, you know. The elves are supposed to be beautiful, all right? And I'm not saying that there can't be a half mixture, you know. It's just that when you go into the realms of mythology, it's broken down by region, and that's how it is, you know. So if you're gonna animate it now, this is where we kind of tie everything together. You need to keep costs down. So I suggest you animate it, Henry, and you find a director that understands action and animation. So if you're really smart, Henry, you're gonna get Gennady Tartakovsky to direct. You're gonna throw a bunch of 40K lore into his face. You're gonna let him read the stories. He'll do his homework, but you're gonna get Gennady Tartakovsky because Samurai Jack, even when they brought it back, it was still good. They did 3 seasons. All of the episodes were fun. They all dealt with something different, and they were fun. They told a story, and it was good. It was good times were had by all. But you get Gennady Tartakovsky. If you're really smart, you'll go with Joaquim dos Santos, who directed Superman Shazam, Return of the Black Adam, which is a 30-minute short film within the DC universe, and it was brilliant. But what I really liked was his direction that he went with G.I. Joe Resolute back in the early aughts, and the Storm Shadow Snake Eyes fight is legendary. So you can get Joaquim dos Santos. You need a good action director that understands animation. Mamoru Oshii, if you want to go Japanese, he's not doing anything. Pat Labor 2 is still a really good movie. And, despite all the philosophical garbage that they poured in it, the action sequences are really good. All right, but if you really, really want to impress me, Henry, you will hire Yoshiaki Kawajiri, the director of Ninja Scroll, because he understands action. So did Joaquim dos Santos. If you watch G.I. Joe Resolute, Storm Shadow in that show, he is 100% Gorin no Sho, the 5 rings. He is not only fighting with the 2 swords, but he's strong enough to fight with the 2 swords. And if you've ever read the Gorin no Sho, or for my Japanese viewers, Yonde Gorin no Sho, imasu, ima. You have to read it now. Musashi Miyamoto talks about fighting with the 2 swords, and that's Storm Shadow's fighting style. It's badass, and I can't get enough of it. You know, he's just 100% Gorin no Sho.
I hate you because he chose you.
So, get Kawajiri because, he did an adaptation based on the samurai, Jubei Kipagami, which draws his name from Jubei Yagul, who was the son of Muninori Yagul, and Jubei was actually a contemporary at the time frame when Musashi would be in his later years of his life. And, he's probably the most romanticized samurai because he had despite only having one eye, he had a reputation for being handsome and of fearsome ability in the way of the sword. So, Ninja Scroll just really sits up at the top. But one movie that stands out with Yoshiaki Kawajiri that doesn't really get a lot of acclaim is The Highlander. And one of the Highlanders in that show was a barbarian, and the other one was a frickin' no bullshit Roman centurion who kills the other Highlander's wife. And they have battles throughout history, all the way up into the late future. They were there in World War II at the fall of the Third Reich, and that, and the whole reason he was serving the Third Reich is that this centurion wanted to kind of bring back something akin to the Roman Empire, and it got destroyed again. And this other dude couldn't leave it alone that he killed his wife thousands of years ago. And HD gives that one 5 skulls. You got to check it out. So you have to animate it, and you have to find an animator, a director that understands action and animation. So from the bottom of my heart, Henry, I'm asking you to look into either one of those directors that I just mentioned. Mamoru Oshii, Yoshiaki Kawajiri. Kawajiri being the #1 pick. If we're lucky, we'll get Gennady Tartakovsky, but I will settle for Joaquim dos Santos because he understands action. He understands fan service. So, with that aside, I don't want to see any live action, blue screen, $1 billion kick to the teeth like the Rings of Power. The best you can do for Warhammer 40K and the best that you can do for Warhammer Fantasy are short anthology films. And with that said, as you know, YouTube has many features you can use to interact with me. You can like the video, dislike the video, comment, or subscribe. But until I see you again, keep fighting, keep playing. Don't forget to check out the Highlander and G.I. Joe Resolute, and stay metal, my friends.
When on.
I friggin' sold out. It's better to burn out than to fade away.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.